Hey, it's Khaliq again, and here's the next question that I get asked all the time, So, what's the best way that I can learn how to use EQ? EQ is integral to everything that we do. So, having an organized way to approach learning it is going to be the most helpful to you. So, let's get started with one of the first things that I think you could do right away is break it up into three, four, or five ranges. But I would suggest if you're just starting out learning how to deal with EQ, start with three. Start with three EQ ranges, and basically what that is start out with low, mids, and highs. Okay, low, mids, and highs. And there's a reason why you see this like in your car stereos or on TVs and radios and things like that. It's an easy way to just kind of dial in the tonal quality that you want. So once you do that, start out with the three ranges. Then later on, as you get more proficient, then try doing it at lows, then low mids, then high mids, and then highs, and then to four ranges. Then after that, try to get lows, low mids, mids, high mids, and then highs, or whatever, however you want to call it. You can divide it up more so that you can zero in on the range better. But to start out, like I said, I suggest just start out with three things. Now, the next thing to do is make a quick identification. Use your instincts because you've got good instincts. We've all been listening to music. So right away, listen and solve problems first. So then say, okay, you're listening to something, put it in one of those categories, low, mid, high. Here's the problem, okay? If it's in the lows, okay, it sounds a little tubby. I want you to describe it next. Tubby, thick, muddy, woody, woofy sounding, or it's boomy and things like that, mids, boomy, so it sounds like a little thick, woody, tubby. If it gets into the highs and things like that, it sounds a little harsh, irritating, piercing. Use things like that. Don't use the techie terms like, I think it needs to be dipped at 2.5K by about 4 dB or something. Don't think like that. That might be what you end up doing, but don't think like that. Think like a natural human being. It's like, okay, it sounds, it's irritating up there. Let me dig it out and take it down. Or it sounds dull. I need a little more high end, then, if you do like that, you keep it more like what music is. Music is an organic process and it's a natural thing. Don't, strip away the life of what music has to it. After you describe it, then I say drastically and dramatically solve the problem right away at first. Now, when I say that, I mean, when I say drastically, go ahead and like I used to take EQ. Then if I found a problem, I drastically dip it out at where I thought that problem was. Then I put it back to zero. Then I drastically dip it out a little again, but maybe not quite as much. So the first time I might dip it out as much as like 12 dB and see what's going on. Then I'll put it back at zero and say, okay, I think that's the area. If it's not, I'll try some other areas and adjust. But drastically dip it so I can hear it and then go back so that I get my point of reference of what I'm actually hearing and hear if that problem goes away when I go in that area. Then the final thing that I do is once I find that area, I make sure that I do the least amount of damage possible. So once I know I'm in the right area, then I'm gonna go with your. I've told you before, go in increments of like 3 dB and 6 dB, 9 dB, 12 dB, or whatever. But 3 dB and 6 dB, whether it's boosting or cutting, still sounds relatively invisible to the ear until you start getting real drastic on some of those things. It's relatively invisible to the ear. So as a if I got something that's a serious problem or whatever, I can usually try to see if I can get away with starting out just dipping like maybe 3 dB. If it ain't enough, I'll try 6 dB next. If it sounds like it's too much, because I'll go back, say, okay, well, it sounds like I'm stripping out maybe a little bit too much, then I'll go in the middle of that. If you cut 3 in half, that'd be 1.5 dB. So then you can say, okay, it's somewhere between 3 and somewhere between 6. Let's try 4.5 dB. That's adding the 1.5 onto the 3 instead of going to full 6, which is too much, but 3 isn't quite enough. So, you do little things like that, and that'll get you in the area and get you in the ballpark without doing too much damage, and then always go back and check it without what you're doing just to be sure you're not doing too much, And if you do these things, you'll start dialing in and knowing exactly where to go, because once you have those 3 areas, 4 areas, or 5 areas, you'll know exactly where to start going and seeing the common things. You can download, I have my common problem frequencies cheat sheet that you can download for free. You go to Khaliq-O-Vision.com/cheat sheet. You can download this, and that can help you out. Put it in a notebook, keep it with you, paste it on the wall or something like that, whatever you want to do until you know it right away. Okay, anyway, this is Khaliq. I didn't mean to make it this long, but I think this is one of the biggest things you need to know. So I'll see you on the next one. Catch you later. Bye.